The Big Ten semifinals didn't exactly go Penn State's way, but these final sessions today should be very favorable for the Nittany Lions.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State Wrestling. Thanks so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. My name is Zach Seyko, and I am your host of the show. Big Ten Championships. Penn State has 6 wrestlers into the finals. Doesn't match the total that they had a season ago with 7 finalists, but could they have 6 individual champions? Plus, there's still 4 wrestlers that remain in consolations. So Penn State had 170.5 team points at Big Tens a year ago. They could and should break that mark going into the final sessions here. So we're going to preview all of it, everybody's path. But Big Ten, the semifinals, kind of disappointed for Penn State standards, for Penn State's expectations. So was this team overrated going into the postseason? We'll wrap up with that after we get through what we're going to see unfold here in day 2 of the Big Ten tournament and the final day. So we'll start with the finalists, beginning with Luke Lilledahl and going all the way up to heavyweight with Kerkvliet, and then talk about the consolation wrestlers, Braden Davis, Beau Bartlett, Shayne Van Ness, and Josh Barr. Luke Lilledahl defeated Matt Ramos and was in control from start to finish, 12-4. Now he's going to get a rematch with Caleb Smith of Nebraska. Smith is the number 2 seed in this bracket, and Lilledahl had beaten Smith the first time. 4-2 was the score. Got that final takedown got that takedown to win it on the road. And that was one of the biggest wins, at least at the time, for Lilledahl. Now, after we saw what happened against Matt Ramos, I can't help but see my confidence continue to go up for Lilledahl. We had the expectation on this show that Lilledahl was going to get it done. Now, I didn't necessarily foresee a major decision from Lilledahl against the number 1 ranked wrestler at 125, and frankly, the odds-on favorite not only at Big Tens, but NCAAs. He was the giant of this class. And Luke Lilledahl not only defeated him, but defeated him convincingly and controlled from start to finish. That was a major decision against a wrestler that had not given up a takedown until the bout prior to Lilledahl. So I like Lilledahl's chances here at 125 to defeat Caleb Smith again. Now, Caleb Smith is certainly not the same wrestler that he faced the last time around. However, Lilledahl isn't the same wrestler himself, as we can see. So for someone that was a little tentative, was a little passive, sometimes his conditioning didn't look the best, but that's a true freshman. You're going to go through that. So Lilledahl here, he was made for the postseason. I think Lilledahl is leaps and bounds better than what he was at the time when these two faced off. When it was that 4-2 decision victory for Lilledahl, I think Lilledahl wins again. I think there's going to be a little more scoring as well. So I think Smith will get a takedown, but I think Lilledahl should have maybe 2 or 3 more takedowns in this instance. Maybe it teeters on a major decision there, but I think it's a decisive victory where Lilledahl does get the win and gets the Big Ten championship at 125 for Penn State. Second year in a row, because Braden Davis did it a season ago. So we are going to jump over 133, 141, and 149 since all of those wrestlers are in consies, but we are going to talk about them in the upcoming segments. Let's move all the way to 157. Tyler Kasak pinned Antrell Taylor in 1 minute and 17 seconds. This was, again, decisive victory the first time around, and then Kasak goes out and pins Taylor. If you didn't think so already, Kasak was the number 1 wrestler going into this tournament. Now, granted, he was the 2 seed, but because of that injury default against Ethan Miller, Kasak is the number 1 wrestler. That's really not up for debate. Objectively speaking, he is. And I think once again, Kasak will prove that. And going into this bout against Brandon Cannon of Ohio State, the odds are certainly in his favor. Now, Cannon's really impressed. Cannon knocked off number 1 Ethan Miller. I did preface to start that, hey, Ethan Miller's probably going to be a vulnerable 1 seed. But also along the way, right, Ja'Cory Teamer was knocked out, and then Cannon had to defeat Tommy Askey. So Cannon's picked up some impressive wins here. I think Kasak is much better. He is the number one wrestler. He has to be the favorite at 157 going forward. Yes, I know Meyer Shapiro is out there from Cornell, but Kasak, I think, is even better than Shapiro when those two would eventually meet. Kasak should be the overall favorite, not only at Big Tens and NCAAs. Give me Kasak. Who knows if he picks up another pin here in the process, but I like Kasak to get a solid victory. Maybe it moves to a major decision, but I like Kasak over Cannon here at 157. So that's two individual champions for Penn State. At 165, Mesenbrink absolutely wore out Beau Mantanona of Michigan 25-8. 25 points scored in one match by Mesenbrink. He's going to face Mikey Caliendo. Look, Mikey Caliendo's got nothing to lose at this point. Let's frame it from that regard. And I like the way that Caliendo has been wrestling, not only throughout the regular season, aside from these matches against Mesenbrink, but if it wasn't for Mesenbrink, Caliendo would be in a class of his own in this 165-pound weight class. He would be in his own tier because I don't think there's anybody else. Maybe there's an argument for Terrell Barraclaw, and I'm eager to see that matchup because most likely it'll be Caliendo versus Barraclaw in that 2-3 matchup, depending on where everybody's seated. So I'm looking too far in advance. Mesenbrink, though, he's the heavy favorite. He's a Hodge Trophy contender. When I say that Caliendo has nothing to lose, it's because everybody expects you to lose this match. People aren't expecting you to win. People are expecting you to lose by at least a major decision. So go out there, let it fly. I think in doing so, this one will be one of the closer because Mesenbrink is still as elite as he is, but I keep seeing Caliendo make progress with each bout. He gets a little bit closer. It's still not enough to beat Mesenbrink, but it's closer to a point where you shrink the margin. So give me Mesenbrink, but give me a closer bout where it's probably not going to, because I see Caliendo lighting up the scoreboard. So Mesenbrink and Caliendo, there's going to be probably 25 points scored between the two of them in the first two periods. It's just going to be offensive central between Mesenbrink and Caliendo. However, I think Mesenbrink still gets a major decision ultimately because I don't think Caliendo can keep up with the pace of Mesenbrink. So something along the lines of an 8 to 10 point win for Mesenbrink over Caliendo. Move to 174, Levi Haines. I should be giving more credit to Lenny Pinto. I've honestly, and I'm not afraid to admit it, I thought Pinto would be upset along the way. Now, it was close. Bronigal of Illinois gave him everything, and it took the final, I kid you not if you missed it, the final 0.5 seconds of that bout. Pinto was almost upset by Danny Bronigal at the time, but video replay showed, and I agreed. I was watching it, and I'm saying, that's a takedown, man. Pinto's got it. So he moves on. Remember, Levi Haines defeated Pinto decisively when they met in the Penn State-Nebraska dual meet. I don't think much changes here, but I will say, hey, Pinto kind of the same thing as Caliendo. Nobody's expecting you to beat Haines. Haines is expected to be on his way to a third consecutive Big Ten title here now at 174 as opposed to 157. So if you're Pinto, you kind of have this nothing to lose mentality as well, where you have the chance to prove everybody wrong. It was decisive, but you were there, you were in it. Maybe another takedown gets this to be a closer bout. I do think it's close. I think this maybe comes down to a riding time point, an additional escape, maybe a back point or two. I think that's going to be the difference. This should be about a 2 to 3 point decision in favor of Haines over Lenny Pinto. Then let's get to 184. This one should be enticing from the fact that Max McEnelly has all the potential in the world. And how good is he? How elite is he right now? Because in my mind, after Starocci, after Kakaisen, there's Max McEnelly. And I know Angelo Ferrari knocked off number 3 Dustin Plante. I get that. But Ferrari's not here. Ferrari is not entered into this postseason. Max McEnelly, dude doesn't lose. I know this was high school, his redshirt freshman season, or his true freshman season, and now in his redshirt freshman season, McEnelly has not lost an NCAA match. He only lost one match in high school. Starocci, though, pending 5-time NCAA champion. Starocci just continues to look, it's crazy to think, but Starocci himself even looks better through these matches, adjusting to his weight appropriately. He still has that same speed. He's added that, I feel like he's gotten stronger actually as a competitor moving up to 184 because he said it's easier for him to carry the weight. But McEnelly, is not just a pushover. This isn't your everyday first-year starter. Okay, this is somebody that it can surprise at NCAA's potentially. Who knows against Parker Kakaisen? I'm just saying McEnelly is not far off. I will take Carter Starocci here, but just don't say I didn't warn you. And I would be surprised if McEnelly does not give Starocci a fight and makes this a close one where it does come to a final takedown. Maybe it does come down to a sudden victory type of moment there. But I think Starocci gets it done, and McEnelly does hopefully impress more people than he already has in the process this season. Now, we still have Greg Kerkvliet to get to, so at this time, Penn State would have 5 individual champions, which would tie last year's mark. So could Greg Kerkvliet do what is unthinkable to an extent and defeat the Gable Stevenson to make it 6 individual champions for Penn State? Plus, we got the consolation wrestlers, 4 of which could all take 3rd place and help push that team total and break that from a season ago that compared to the 2024 team. That is coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's show is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Do you need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for that extra edge, their free Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it is your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, or electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That is supplyhouse.com. And today's episode is also brought to you by WayFair. Your home should reflect your style, and with WayFair, it is easier than ever to make that happen. Whether you're looking for a simple refresh or tackling a big home project, WayFair has everything you need all in one place. Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find the perfect piece, no matter your space or your budget. From cozy furniture to stylish decor to kitchen essentials and outdoor must-haves, Wayfair has it all, and at prices that will fit your budget. Finding the perfect piece is easy when you are looking for something like a new rug to tie your living room together. Wayfair has so many stylish options at great prices, and you get easy shopping and delivery. The site makes it so simple to compare styles, and your order will arrive fast with free delivery. And it's more than just furniture. You will find everything from storage solutions to patio decor, making it your go-to for all things home. Head over to wayfair.com and find something that's just your style today. That is WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Remember, if you have any predictions that you'd like to contribute, any thoughts or comments or questions, let me know down in the comments section. Let's pick back up with Greg Kerkvliet against Gable Stevenson. Let me start by saying this. Greg Kerkvliet isn't miles behind Gable Stevenson. Remember, Kerkvliet was a Big Ten champion a season ago, an NCAA champion. These are the clear-cut number 1 and number 2 wrestlers. They were meant to meet up in the Big Tens, and they're going to definitely meet up in NCAAs as well. But if you look back through the history, even when Stevenson was at his peak and Kerkvliet was still coming into his own as a heavyweight wrestler, Stevenson was only defeating him by a few points. It was still a 4 or 5 point margin, but it wasn't, he's doing the same thing to a Nick Feldman or a Ben Keeter or anything where he's just, it's a 13, 14 point major decision, or it's a tech fall, or it's a pin. Kerkvliet was keeping it close and keeping it respectable. Now, I've said the path to a Kerkvliet win and making it 6 of 6 for Penn State is not impossible. Yes, it's unlikely because it seems impossible when you have to map it out. When you have to say that, okay, how does Kerkvliet get a takedown against Stevenson? Not a lot of people are getting takedowns against Stevenson, so it's going to be just as difficult for Kerkvliet. But Kerkvliet is so good on top that I can imagine a scenario where Kerkvliet would win, maybe 2-1, gets an escape, gets the riding time point of some sort. That's how you would have to do it. That's at least the blueprint. So let's identify the blueprint that if Kerkvliet is going to win this and surprise everybody, and is going to have to be a 2-1, it's going to have to be a 2-1 defeat for Kerkvliet over Stevenson. Do I think Stevenson lets that happen? I think Stevenson at least gets a takedown in there. I would not be necessarily surprised if Kerkvliet somehow does get a minute of riding time, gets a couple of escape points, and then this ends up being maybe a 4-2 margin of some sort. It gets slightly closer, but I don't know. Again, Kerkvliet, kind of the way that I've framed it for the likes of Eleni Pinto and some other wrestlers here, where of the overwhelming favorite, where you don't have much to lose. You're the number 2 wrestler. Stevenson is everybody's number 1. So try to change the conversation here. What do you have to lose? Now, I think Stevenson does win here in this case, probably by a margin of, again, a 4-2, maybe a 6-3. Stevenson, if he is going to lose to Kerkvliet, if Kerkvliet is going to pull this off, it's going to have to be a 2-1 score where you get riding time and the addition and that escape point. Now let's move on to consolations, and starting with 133, where Braden Davis is still alive and well. Davis is now an NCAA qualifier. He picked up 27 points between his 2 consolation bouts just yesterday. And he'll face Braxton Brown of Maryland. Look, this is no easy test, but I think it's another one where Davis can prove himself once again. When you just compare and contrast the different wrestlers, because Braxton Brown and Braden Davis have not met, if I'm not mistaken. So when you look at the common wrestlers that they've faced, the common opponents, Davis has at least the track record over the course of their careers where Davis has performed better against common opponents, their other counterparts here. So if we're going strictly off of that, I think maybe Davis gets a little bit of confidence as well going up against a Braxton Brown, right? You string a couple consolation wins together, you shake off some of that rust from being in and out of the lineup with the leg injury. Davis is a defensive wrestler. These two guys you're going to see a lot of defense here in this one as they're trying to get to that 3rd place bout. My prediction was that Braden Davis did get to 3rd place, did not only gets to the bout, but wins and takes 3rd place. So this is how you have to do it. So I'm going to stand by that prediction. I said that he defeats Braxton Brown. It will be close. There will not be a lot of scoring. It'll probably be along the lines of 4-3 or 5-4, somewhere in that range. And then Beau Bartlett. We get to Beau Bartlett at 141, and that's why yesterday's results were somewhat disappointing to Penn State fans, because the expectations were so lofty, and that's what we're going to talk about in the final segment. Was this Penn State team overrated? And Bartlett losing to Vance Vonbauer, somebody that he pinned a year ago, was surprising. For Bartlett, it was a 5-3 decision. I don't know that he kind of returned to his old habits where he just did not attempt a lot of shots. He did not attempt enough shots. Now, Vance Vonbauer didn't give him a lot to work with, but I don't read too much into that result. What it does is it's encouraging that 141 goes beyond Andrew Alirez, Jesse Mendez, and Beau Bartlett, that there are more wrestlers that can compete in this 141-pound weight class. But at the end of the day, to a long story short here, Beau Bartlett is wrestling against Joseph Oliveri. He's most likely going to face Jesse Mendez here. Now, the last time that Oliveri and Bartlett met, it was 7-3 in that Penn State Rutgers dual meet. I expect Bartlett to win again and then move on and then face Jesse Mendez. Everybody thought it was going to be Bartlett and Mendez in the championships. Little did they know that it was going to be in consolations. So it'll be for that 3rd place bout. And this is where, okay, Penn State would like to go 4-4 for those 3rd place matches, but it's going to be tough to defeat Jesse Mendez 2 times in a row like that. And Jesse Mendez is certainly not going to be happy with that loss to Brock Hardy. If I had to make a prediction, my expectation is that Jesse Mendez does win that one, but it's a coin flip every time. So even though I'm not siding with Bartlett this time around, and remember, Bartlett's going to be playing with some fire too, because he lost as well and didn't make it to the championship. So he has every right to be just as motivated as Jesse Mendez is. It's going to make for a great bout. It's just happening for 3rd place at Big Tens. I'm going to have to take Jesse Mendez this time around. As for Shayne Van Ness at 149. He's going to take on Andrew Clark of Rutgers. Now, these two did not meet in the Penn State. Clark did not wrestle in that Penn State Rutgers dual meet. When it came to Shayne Van Ness, it was another instance of it looked very reminiscent of the Ridge Lovett matchup, and in combination with the Dylan D'Amelio matchup, where Van Ness is just not a lot of offense, not a lot of shot attempts. And he got away with it against Dylan D'Amelio, but Cannon Webster of Illinois was just relentless and just kept taking shot after shot. And Van Ness wasn't countering. He was defending the shot, and then Webster ultimately countered. These wrestlers for Penn State, with every loss, they get stronger. So I expect him to bounce back, and I expect him to take third in that 149-pound bracket as well. And then going to Josh Barr, this one's probably the easiest to predict of the consolation bouts because Barr's an NCAA title contender. He is going to take on Isaiah Salazar of Minnesota, and I fully expect him to return to his regular dominance when he's not facing a Stephen Buchanan or a Jacob Cardenas. And at the end of the day, it's only a sudden victory loss. I know he didn't get to he didn't get to follow up on that win against Cardenas the first time, but that's kind of the expectation that I had, that he wasn't going to be able to do that because it is difficult to do. It's extremely difficult to do. So for Barr, just kind of go out there, learn from your mistakes, because what happened was the veteran defeated the rookie in a sense because he is a first-year starter. And ultimately, those experiences are good for Barr because they're going to make him better. And he's going to use that to his advantage at NCAAs. So Barr just has to get through. He's definitely, if I had to say of anybody that I could guarantee of the consolation, I would rank them. Josh Barr is the most likely, then Shayne Van Ness, then Beau Bartlett, and then Braden Davis. That's how I would order them. And Braden Davis and Beau Bartlett are fairly close because Jesse Mendez is in the way there at 141. But this Penn State team, expectations were extremely high because of the goals they had set for this season. So was this team overrated going into Big Tens? Did this team disappoint as much as maybe people think they did? I'll explain. Coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's right, $200 in bonus bets to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. You can pick your favorite teams. If you've got your eye on a few underdogs this year, FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. You stay in the action with the tournament games happening almost every day. There's always something exciting to bet on, and it's easy. It's fast. The FanDuel app is simple to use. It's easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com for your chance at $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Again, that is FanDuel.com. Get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Penn State did fall short of expectations, but that's because the goals, the bar was set extremely high to get possibly 7, 8, maybe even all 9 of the wrestlers that did advance to the semifinals. So 9 finalists. I think the expectation was 7, maybe even 8. That was the realistic possibility there. So they're not too far behind when you think about it. They did get 6. So to answer the question directly, is this Penn State team overrated? Absolutely not. I think this team is properly rated. They are the number 1 team overall. They destroyed everybody in the dual meets, and they still got 6 wrestlers to the finals. And then the other 4 are qualified for NCAAs, and they will most likely all get to that 3rd place match, and most of them will win, and all 4 of them could win their 3rd place bout. So Penn State, at the end of the day, at the end of the Big Ten tournament, when you look at last year's team, when you look at the way that they performed at Big Tens, they had 170.5 team points overall. They had 5 individual champions. They had 7 finalists, and they had a couple more take 3rd place. So ultimately, they had 9 guys place. This time around, they're going to have all 10 place, and I know why. The reason that is because Carter Starocci ultimately had to forfeit out. But when you look at the results, when you look at this, Penn State has a chance to get, I think realistically speaking, you get 5 individual champions. Greg Kerkvliet could make it 6. Who knows? I'm not ruling it out, because if I've learned anything from yesterday in those Big Ten semifinals, is that you really can't expect every single match to go the way that you would anticipate it to. So I guess you can apply that in both ways to say that, well, the favorites that are Penn State, they got knocked off like a Shayne Van Ness. So we think about Mitchell Mesenbrink and Levi Haines and everything, but you have to look at the matchup individually there. Bottom line is Penn State, 5 individual champions, which happened a season ago. You'll most likely have a second place finisher, and then you could have 3 or 4 third place finishers. And then with all the bonus points, that is going to beat the team total from a season ago. But when you look at NCAAs, this is where this team is not overrated. It's properly rated, because Luke Lilledahl is an NCAA title contender now. There wasn't the buy-in to Lilledahl, but if and when he goes on to win a Big Ten title, even still, defeating Matt Ramos now puts him into the conversation of, okay, this guy is not just a fringe All-American. He is an NCAA title contender. Braden Davis, yes, the expectation's going to be just get to the podium, be an All-American, and see how the leg is going into NCAAs. But Beau Bartlett's still an NCAA title contender. Just because he lost one match doesn't change anything. He was undefeated up until that point. Shayne Van Ness, same thing of you only have one loss, and you just picked up your second, you're still an NCAA title contender. Kasak is the NCAA favorite at 157. Mesenbrink, the favorite. Levi Haines, a title contender among Keegan O'Toole and Dean Hamity. And then Carter Starocci, NCAA title contender / favorite. There's going to be people that pick Parker Kaizen, I know that. Josh Barr is an NCAA title contender. He's losing by just a couple of points to Cardenas and Buchanan. And then at heavyweight, Kerkvliet, it's either him or Gable Stevenson. There's nobody else that's going to make it. It's either Gable Stevenson or Greg Kerkvliet. So this team is still definitely in a position to either break records that they set a year ago or just continue to meet that margin, those expectations that are made. So Penn State is not overrated. They're either properly rated, or I think there are elements of this team that are slightly underrated. Does Beau Bartlett and Shayne Van Ness, their stocks go down a little bit? Slightly, but I don't know for me that their stocks necessarily change. It just means for Brock Hardy, for Vance Von Bauer, those guys, their stocks go up. That's how I look at it, is that the NCAA, the competition for these specific weight classes, the pool expands, which is a good thing for the sake of the competition. It's not as condensed. So my opinion doesn't change of Beau Bartlett or Shayne Van Ness or Josh Barr. What it does is my expectations change a lot for these weight classes where Bartlett specifically and Van Ness specifically did lose. And my stock is through the roof when it comes to Luke Lilledahl. I think Luke Lilledahl, if he wins here at Big Tens, he should be the number 1 seed overall. You knocked off Matt Ramos. If you do happen to beat Caleb Smith again, there's no doubt in my mind that Luke Lilledahl is the number 1 overall seed at 125. He deserves it as such. So I think that's where we'll finish it here. That's going to do it that's going to end it to preview the Big Ten Championship, the final sessions going into today. Thank you so much for checking out this episode. We're also going to go live. We're going to go live after the final sessions here on Locked On Nittany Lions, so be on the lookout for that. So if you are not an everydayer already, become one. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts to stay up to date with the latest conversations around your favorite Penn State sports teams, including Penn State wrestling, Penn State football, and Penn State men's basketball. And again, thank you so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. For your second listen and watch, you got to check out Locked On College Basketball with hosts Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. March is here. So be the most informed college basketball fan now throughout the madness. You can find Locked On College Basketball on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day.